Good morning and welcome to South Arts informational webinar for the Performing and Literary Arts Turing Grant Programs for presenters and programmers. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and we will make it available on our website for those that missed today's session. I'm Nikki Estes and I'm the Director for Presenting and Turing at South Arts. I manage many of our grants, including the Dance Turing Initiative and our new Momentum program. Also on today's webinar, we have Molly Quillen-Hayes. She is South Arts Deputy Director of Programs, who also serves as the Accessibility Coordinator.
Good morning.
This morning, we will provide a general overview of South Arts and our grants programs, but will focus on the Performing and Literary Arts grants. We will review recent changes and we'll spend time discussing accessibility, helping you learn more about South Arts expectations, and readiness plans, helping you understand what's needed and how your response will be evaluated. We will look at the application process, the panel review process, and grantee responsibilities. Also, there will be time to answer your questions. If you have a question, please use the Q&A box at the bottom to type your question, and we will be sure to answer it at the end of our presentation. To begin, let's start with a brief overview of South Arts and our priorities. Our mission statement is advancing Southern vitality through the arts. Our work and purpose are designed to address the issues important to our Southern region and to link the South with the nation and the world through the arts. Our strategic plan includes efforts to support the artistic and professional growth and success of artists in the South, to connect artists and arts professionals in the South to resources, to advance impactful arts-based programs that recognize the trends and needs of Southern communities, and to communicate and celebrate the excellence, innovation, value, and power of the arts in the South. South Arts Strategic Plan refines and refocuses our efforts more directly on Southern artists and arts organizations. We recognize that Southern artists and arts organizations are under-resourced, and we are working to both attract national resources and attention on the best in our region and to help Southern artists live and thrive in the South. We fulfill our mission and goals by supporting Southern presenters and artists through our grants and fellowships, Southern communities through Southern Circuit, a tour of independent films which brings filmmakers to Southern communities, organizational sustainability by offering Arts Ready. And finally, we offer and partner with others on special initiatives such as the Dance Turing Initiative, Jazz Road, and In These Mountains. As a regional arts organization, we partner with the National Endowment for the Arts and the state arts agencies in these 9 states. We deliver services and provide programs to these areas. Most of our programs operate within our 9-state region, but we have other programs like Arts Ready and Jazz Road that reach beyond these states to serve the national arts community. To be clear, you must be located in our region to be eligible for our grant programs. Now let's take a look at several of our grant programs for presenters and programmers. South Arts awards about $600,000 each year in grant funds to these current programs. At the moment, we have several available grant programs. We will focus on Performing Arts Turing and Literary Arts Turing today, but I want to mention other funding opportunities for presenters and programmers. Please visit our website for specific guidelines and eligibility criteria for each of these programs. One of the goals is to get Southern artists in new communities, so all of our Turing grant programs require presenters to engage Southern artists from outside of their state for public performances, presentations, or readings and educational activities. Our Performing Arts grant program supports music, dance, theater, multidisciplinary performing arts projects. The Literary Arts Turing Grant Program supports fiction, creative nonfiction, and poetry. And Traditional Arts Turing supports performing and visual arts projects. Express grants support performing and literary arts projects for organizations in rural or small communities of 50,000 or less. We also offer grants to help presenters and programmers capacity. These grants support the professional development needs of organizations in our region. The professional development and artistic planning grants support travel expenses for new professional development opportunities. This includes participation at a workshop or conference that your organization has never attended, but also includes travel support for seeing live work and planning visits with artists. Our cross-sector impact grants are new and encourage partnerships between arts and non-arts organizations. Molly, would you like to briefly speak about the cross-sector impact grants in Jazz Road?
Certainly. Cross-sector impact grants are supported by the National Endowment for the Arts, and we just completed our first round. This is a new grant program that allows an arts partner, either an artist or an arts organization, to partner with a non-arts organization on an issue that will have significant community impact. The first round of grants, which were awarded a few months ago, of up to $15,000 each, supported arts and allowing the partners to identify which other discipline or domain combined with the arts would have greater and more long-lasting results. Some of the funded projects included addressing juvenile justice through the arts in mental health, the arts in Parkinson's disease, and addressing the loss of food and shelter in rural North Carolina due to climate change. We'll be announcing the next round of grants in January, and we have used a more simplified process where you initially can submit just a letter of intent. So it allows you and a non-arts partner with whom you're working to develop a new program or expand on something that you're already doing and put those ideas forward to us.
Do you mind speaking a little bit about Jazz Road?
Certainly. Jazz Road is a program that is designed to find new ears for jazz music and to provide musicians with a living wage while on the road. We've done one round of funding for 31 tours across the country, and our next session will open the third week of January. We'll have the guidelines and application open with a deadline the third week of April. And this is a very unique program in that the artists build a tour and request the funding for a tour of 3 to 6 communities. And this does have a priority on small and rural communities, alternative venues, and new presenters of jazz. The funding the artists receive can relieve part or all of their fee. Presenters generally put in some resources towards the fee or towards artist road expenses. Later in 2020, we'll open Jazz Road Creative Residencies. We hope that artists will partner with presenting venues for in-depth residencies of multiple weeks in a new community. The residency may focus on development of new work, working with new band members, reaching deeply into the community to engage new audiences for jazz, or any other focus that they would like. Again, the funds go directly to the artist, but the presenter is a very key part of both of these programs. So if you are interested in expanding your jazz programming, or if you are interested in exploring jazz, this program might allow you to start that with a lower financial risk. You can be in touch with us or go to jazzroad.org and join our call for presenters to let us know that you're interested. This program is funded through 2023 and receives support from the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation and the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. Thanks, Nikki.
Thank you. So presenters can only submit one application in each grant program per year, but in some cases, presenters are allowed to submit applications for multiple programs. There are some restrictions specifically for the traditional arts Turing and express grants, so I recommend that you carefully review the guidelines and contact staff if you have questions. Our Performing Arts Turing Grant Program connects performing artists to constituents in Southern communities. This grant program supports engagements by guest artists in theater, music, opera, musical theater, and dance. Engagements must include a public performance and an educational component provided by the guest artist. Applicants are allowed to request 50% of the artist fee, up to $7,500 for dance projects, and up to $5,000 for all other performing arts projects. Our grant funds solely support the artist fee rather than other project expenses. This grant only supports one artist, company, or ensemble. The application deadline is Monday, March 2nd, and applicants will be notified of funding decisions in late May. The Literary Arts Turing Grant Program supports engagements by guest writers of fiction, creative nonfiction, and poetry. Like our Performing Arts Turing Program, these Turing funds support the writer's fee for providing a publicly accessible reading and educational activities. One unique aspect of this program is that applicants are allowed to submit an application for multiple writer engagements, up to the maximum request of $2,500. Applications are due on Friday, May 1st, and funding decisions will be emailed in mid-June. We implemented these changes several years ago, but want to mention it again. With our new strategic plan, we are enhancing our support of Southern artists. And because of who we are, supporting Southern artists continues to be a high priority for us. If you plan to submit an application, you must engage a Southern artist. If you need help finding a Southern artist, we have resources on our website that might be helpful. As you may know, these grants require applicants to engage Southern artists or writers from outside of their state. But since last year, we're now allowing in-state touring for artists that reside 400 miles away from the presenter. We recognize that some states, like Florida and Tennessee, have special circumstances, but we are mandated to only allow in-state touring for extreme distances. So this new rule may be applicable to only a handful of presenters. New this year is that there may be additional funds for engaging Indigenous artists residing in the South. This year, we are happy to partner with the Western Arts Alliance on their pilot Advancing Indigenous Performance program that promotes the touring and engagement of Indigenous artists from the United States and its territories. To qualify, the ensemble or artist must identify as an Indigenous performing artist according to the Western Arts Alliance definition. A South Arts application that meets our program guidelines is awarded a grant through our competitive process and engages an Indigenous artist or ensemble residing in the South may be eligible for matching funds from the Western Arts Alliance depending on available funding. Let's take a quick look at who and what we fund for the Performing Arts Touring and Literary Arts Touring grant programs. We only support nonprofit or governmental organizations in our region. Required project activities include readings, concerts, and performances that are open to the general public, and educational activities that are provided by the guest artist. Guest artists must reside in our region but outside of the applicant state. And again, our funds only support artist fees, and we only support projects that are accessible. We use the following criteria to evaluate grant applications. We utilize panels made up of professionals from the presenting and touring field to serve as reviewers. I'm going to briefly touch on each of these, but we will spend more time discussing accessibility and readiness plans. Artistic excellence is solely about the quality, experience, and skill of the artist or company. Work samples should reflect and represent the type of work the artist or company will provide during your project. Please be sure to include a strong work sample from the artist with your application. The project's artistic merit is about the project's quality, the performance or reading, and the educational component. We would like as much detail as possible about your project in order to have a clear understanding of your project and its goals. Audience development includes assessing audience and community needs, cultivating those audiences, creating a plan for engagement, and developing effective partnerships. We want to see your strategies for audience development and how your community is involved in planning and implementation. You should also provide details about your project partners. For accessibility, we want to see if there is an understanding of the diverse needs of individuals with disabilities, whether your organization is proactive, and if there is evidence of outreach strategies. Organizational capacity looks at your presenting history and how you plan to evaluate your project. We want to know who you have presented in the past. We want to know who and what are involved with your project evaluation and how you will use that information. As part of your application, you must provide a description of your readiness plan. As I've mentioned, South Arts is committed to making business continuity planning a priority for the arts and encourages all arts organizations to develop and maintain readiness plans to ensure their sustainability. A readiness plan is a combination of documents, processes, and training that formulate what your organization will do should the unexpected occur. Now we'll spend about 10 minutes providing more detail on our expectations for readiness plans and accessibility.
Great, thank you. Next slide, please. Just some basics of accessibility that we're looking at a range of experiences people have. Some of them are visible, some of them are not. People with physical disabilities and mobility needs. These include older adults, and we know that with the aging of the baby boomer population, these folks are exponentially increasing, and they don't necessarily want to give up all their entertainment, arts, and recreation just because they're getting old, their bodies are getting older. Vision, we are looking at people who are blind or people with vision loss or who have low vision. And again, that's not always apparent. And this is can be a disability that people acquire as they age and will still want to do the activities and see the things that they have always enjoyed. Next slide. Hearing disabilities include, again, people who are deaf or people who are hard of hearing or have hearing loss. And I'll just note here that people who are deaf often find themselves as part of the capital D deaf community, where American Sign Language is their primary mode of communication. Whereas people who are hard of hearing or have hearing loss are looking for other ways to have their experience enhanced and having access to that. And again, that would not be visible to you. And finally, I know many arts organizations are really on the cutting edge of providing experiences for people who have cognitive or sensory disabilities. That includes sensory processing disabilities, people on the autism spectrum, people with PTSD or traumatic brain injury, which we are seeing much more of that with our returning service members. Next slide. I'll quickly go through these accessibility resources. The NEA website, the National Endowment for the Arts website, has the Cultural Administrator's Handbook. You'll see a sample of that. It is available online or as a downloadable PDF. And although it's a little bit dated, it still has really great basic information if you're not sure how to approach accessibility in your venue. The national and state resources, and these are all free. The ADA Technical Assistance Centers, there is one specifically for the Southeast, and they do free trainings and webinars on about a daily basis. They also have on-call experts should you have an accessibility challenge or something that you're interested in exploring. These are experts who can help you right away. And each of your state arts agency has an accessibility coordinator. And finally, I would like to put in a plug for the annual LEAD conference, Leadership Exchange for Artists and for Arts and Disabilities. This is a 20-year-old conference that has grown into this year. It was over 600 people, and it is chock full of workshops and experienced faculty that deal with every aspect of the arts and accessibility, from audiences to artists, all ranges of disability, and it even looks at best practices from abroad. Next year, it will be in North Carolina. It's held across the country, so it'll be in our region next year. It's in August, and you can apply for a professional development grant to attend that if your organization has not attended LEAD in the past. So I would really encourage you to think about that. Next slide. Great, we'll move now to readiness. And as Nikki very clearly said, this is where we want to make sure that you have a set of documents, processes, and trainings so that you and your organization are able to be resilient when something unexpected happens. Why are we concerned about this? We want you to be able to protect your assets, to maintain your cash flow, to demonstrate sustainability to stakeholders and funders, and of course to keep serving the community and keep living up to your mission. As we've said, there is no one plan that is right for every organization. Each organization will need their own plan, and it is not just a piece of paper that you put on the shelf. There are things that you document, things that you learn about, things that you do in real life, like planning meetings and conversations and training, that again will help you to recover from a business interruption. We recommend using an all hazards planning approach, which means that you understand that you might be vulnerable from things that are common to your area or very unexpected. You can do a little bit at a time, and you don't need to start from scratch. We have been working for many years in pulling together resources that will help you build your plan without having to be an expert. Next slide. So when we ask you to think about your readiness plans, we look at three things. Content, that your plan is really tailored to your organization. Comprehensiveness, that addresses all of your critical functions or areas, including people, facilities, IT, communications, community, trainings and drills, etc. Currency, that is up to date, because having an out-of-date plan can actually be more dangerous than having no plan at all if you rely on it in an emergency and it doesn't guide you in the right way. And again, plans should be at the right scale for your organization. Large performing arts centers might have a very complex plan, but we have also received plans that are one page, and for a small concert association that is all volunteer run. So complexity is not important. Content, comprehensiveness, and currency are. Next slide. So these are the 9 critical areas that we ask you to consider. And then the question is, what will you do if your access to any of these functions is cut off? For instance, your people might be unavailable to you because of illness or an unexpected termination or resignation. Your facilities, you might lose access to them because of storm damage, disagreement with a landlord, or mold. We know of an artist who walked into her rented office one day and was told, there's mold, you have to leave, and so we can abate it, and she wasn't allowed back in for over a year. Communications, your server may be hacked. You might have a public relations problem. So again, we ask you to think ahead on all of these so that you're not caught in a bad position if something occurs unexpectedly. Next slide. another example of, do you have a plan for when your ticketing software goes down? We would like to make this particular call to those of you who are presenters on campuses or part of a municipal or county operation. Please recognize that you are unique to them. The arts, whether it's galleries, performance spaces, those you're probably unique on the campus. So you really should talk with your organization's safety and emergency management office to make sure that your plan meshes with theirs and theirs meshes with yours. They will find that they will learn a lot about your organization, and you should not assume that what they have in place for the campus serves your very unique needs, bringing in guest artists, having public audiences on campus outside of school hours, etc. So you really need to ensure that clear lines of authority and how will you communicate to make decisions are known to everyone. Finally, these are some resources available to you, and these are expanding year by year. At www.artsready.org, we have been developing the ArtsReady 2.0 online planning tool now for about 2 years. The software development has taken a little bit longer, but we believe this will be a very user-friendly and easy to navigate tool that will give you physical products. Also, there will be subsidies available for the first year's subscription. So check our website, sign up for the ArtsReady mailing list. You'll know as soon as that's available. Also, the Performing Arts Readiness Project. Here's the website. They do an amazing array of free webinars. They have planning grants, workshops, and consultancies across the country. This is a national project. So many of their webinars have been recorded and are available on demand at the website. And some of them are very specific, including cybersecurity, communications crisis planning, disaster readiness, the whole array. And I'll finally close, oh, I'm sorry, go on, Nikki. So this is what we will be asking you for if you apply for a performing arts or literary Turing grant. A written description of your plan. We do not encourage you to rush your planning process. If you don't have a full plan, just tell us where you are and how you're planning to move forward. You can develop your plan using any resource, again, outside training or consultants or the South Arts ArtsReady tool. And we would be happy to review your draft submission and work with you, and if you would like to enhance it or have questions, as long as you are in touch with me 4 weeks prior to the grant deadline.
Thank you.
May I mention one last thing, Nikki?
Of course.
Thank you. South Arts has been requiring a readiness plan in place for applicants now for 3 or 4 years. We know that that is spreading to other funders, and starting in FY21, all grant applications to the National Endowment for the Arts will require a readiness plan as part of that application. So just want to make everyone know that this is really a concern across the philanthropic field, and you should expect more and more funders to be requiring this. Thanks.
Thank you. So in addition to the readiness plan descriptions, let's talk about the other documents that are required for your application. To begin, your entire application is submitted online. There is nothing to mail in, and you're required to include an executed contract or letter of agreement between you and the artist with your application. You must include the artist's audio or video work sample. Also include artist support materials. This is written information about the artist or company. This could be a bio or history of the company. And as we've mentioned, the readiness plan description is required. Optional documents include proof of government status if you are a municipality or state college, for example. An additional support document like letters of support or a season brochure is also allowed. If you are a literary arts applicant and you're requesting support from multiple writers, there is an additional form that you must complete and upload. Please be sure that you allow enough time to collect these documents and review them prior to the application deadline. When you submit your application, the staff reviews it for completeness and the panel then reviews it for funding consideration. Depending on the program, the review process can take anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks. South Arts staff makes award recommendations based on the panel review. Please be aware that if you receive a South Arts grant, it is important to remember that a dollar-for-dollar cash match is required. You must acknowledge South Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts and write your federal legislators about your award. It's also nice to encourage your elected officials to attend your funded event also. Finally, you will also need to complete a fairly simple report once your project ends. Typically, grant awards are paid after the project is complete and you have submitted your report. Some helpful tips as you prepare your application are to carefully review and understand the guidelines and the changes. Get familiar with eGrant. This is the system that we use for our grant submissions. Get materials like press kits, work samples, and contracts from the artist or agents early so you have plenty of time to review it or get approval and upload it. Please use our scoring matrix as a guide, and we will see that shortly. The matrix provides some benchmarks that you should use. Also, make sure that you have the technology to upload the necessary documents because we do not extend deadlines, so please plan accordingly. Also, please provide as much detail as possible. Be sure that you answer all of the questions. Proof your work. Again, submit high quality work samples. Please don't make assumptions. Use the evaluation criteria as a guide and use the available resources that we have on our website. A few tips for using our eGrant system includes reviewing the narrative questions well in advance and noting the maximum length of responses. I would recommend that you prepare your responses in Word. That way you can use spell check and use the character count. Again, collecting and scanning documents early. And also review your application and view it in eGrant before submission. What you see in the view platform is what the panelists will see. On our website, you can access the scoring matrix that we use to evaluate applications and know that there are more specific criteria for accessibility and readiness. Those resources are available on our website. You can access the guidelines, instructions, eGrant system, and all of the resources that we mentioned by visiting our website, southarts.org, and selecting the Grants tab at the top. Finally, you can get assistance by contacting us. Please contact me for any of your grant questions and contact Molly for accessibility or readiness plans. So I think we will now take a look at the questions that you have at the moment. If you have a question, please type it in the Q&A box at the bottom. We will read the question and answer it as they come in, but if you have additional questions after this morning, please do not hesitate to contact us. Ethan, if you will unmute and mention any questions that have been submitted to us.
Sure. So we've gotten this privately submitted to us a couple of times. So Molly, would you share your answer again about whether there is a list of jazz artists that people could access to intend to book?
Certainly, thanks, Ethan. As part of the Jazz Road National Project, we are beginning to collect an inventory of jazz assets across the country, including artists, venues and presenters, media outlets, studios, and that'll be a work in progress throughout the life of the program. but we are building a list of both presenters and artists that might want to get matched with each other. I would recommend that you, go to the jazzroad.org website, and you'll see a tab for call for presenters. Share your information there so that we can make that available at whatever level you desire, with artists that might be interested in touring to your part of the country. And secondly, if you're looking for a particular artist or genre, Sarah Donnelly is our director of jazz here at South Arts, and she'll certainly be happy to connect with you. Her email address is sdonnelly, SDONNELY @southarts.org.
Thank you, Molly. Here's a question we just got. If you are currently funded by the NEA, are you eligible for South Arts grants programs?
The answer to that great question, you cannot submit a request to South Arts for the same project that's currently being funded by the National Endowment for the Arts. And you also cannot use the National Endowment for the Arts as a match to our grant. But if you're currently receiving a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts for Project A, and you want to apply to South Arts for a completely different project, that is allowed.
Thank you, Nikki. Does the public performance have to be free, or can tickets be sold?
The performance does not have to be free. We do ask that you provide ticket prices or a range of prices. It is considered during the panel review process. So it doesn't have to be free, but we do ask for information if you are planning to charge admission for any of the activities.
Thank you. If there is a donor who will be matching the grant funds, do you need to specify who the donor is?
No, you do not. In the final report form, we ask for very simple expenses and income, and so you would only provide the information about the match. We don't ask specifics about who the match is coming from and any specific information about donors.
Thank you. Does the public performance have to be free, or can tickets be sold?
So this is very similar to a previous question. The public performance tickets do not have to be free. It's up to you to determine what is appropriate for your community. And again, we will take a look at that information when we review your application.
Okay. If a presenting organization is presenting the artist in 2 different cities, can the fee for both be submitted as a combined fee?
I'm going to assume that the applicant is going to provide the performances and they just happen to be in 2 locations, which is fine as long as those 2 cities are within your own state. That shouldn't be an issue. If it falls outside of those perimeters, such as if another performance is happening in a state in another, in a city in another state, then we should probably talk. But we, applaud activities happening in multiple communities for a broader reach. So that is not an issue for us. And the artist fee can certainly include the related fees to both of those performances or activities happening in separate cities.
Great, thank you. Does the cash match have to be applied directly to the artist's fee, or can it be for the project as a whole?
So we are primarily interested in knowing that you're matching South Arts grant dollar for dollar. And as I mentioned, our grant only supports the artist fee. So that is our primary focus. We, in the final report, we do ask for information about the total expenses of your project so that we can have a broader view and understanding of what what your project costs. We certainly know that there are greater expenses outside of the project, artist fees. So to answer your question shortly, the cash match has to directly relate to the artist fee.
Great. Can a Chamber Music America New Jazz Works grantee apply for Jazz Road to support the continued live work of the grant and touring? Life. It must be life of the grant. The continued life of the grant and touring.
This is Molly, and actually, because the artist is the applicant for a Jazz Road Tours grant, there is the presenter does not apply, but we would certainly, if the planned CMA project is happening within a Jazz Road Grants project timeline, that artist might certainly be eligible to include your site on their tour.
Thank you. If our organization is presenting artists from India, are members from our organization allowed to perform with these visiting artists since it's a collaborative project?
Will you repeat that question, please?
Yes. If our organization is presenting artists from India, are members from our organization allowed to perform with these visiting artists since it is a collaborative project?
Well, one, I would want to clarify whether the artists are from India or reside in India. Our grant requires that you engage an artist from our region, but outside of your state. So if the company or artists are from India but live within the southern region and you're planning to engage them in your project, that is suitable. And if you want to engage members of your organization, it would have to be outside of the public performance. What this grant program is about is putting guest artists on stage and highlighting those guest artists. However, we certainly would like to see the community engaged in deeper levels. And so if there is an opportunity to engage members from the organization in a small, very small portion of the performance or in any of the educational activities, that is allowed, but we are really trying to highlight and present guest artists and let those artists stand alone on the stage for the most part. So if that's not clear and you really want to talk about the specifics of this project, I would encourage you to shoot me an email or give me a call, and I'll make sure that we talk through your project to make sure it's eligible.
Thank you, Nikki. Will you fund the commission of a new work by a Southern artist?
Great question. So this grant program is the Performing Arts Touring Program is solely about supporting the presentation of a guest artist. If that presentation includes commissioning fees, but the end result will be a public performance and an educational component, that could be included in the artist fee. But at this moment, we currently do not have a grant program that solely supports the commissioning of work.
Okay, great. If an applicant does not have a full readiness plan, are they ineligible to apply? Or could they be in the beginning phase of planning? This requirement is a barrier to many of our organizations.
That is a good question, and your readiness plan submission, your up to 2-page description, goes towards up to 5 points on your score. So we know that many organizations are still in very preliminary places in terms of their planning. But I would also say that once they think about it and collect things, some organizations find that they're more prepared than they thought. When you're looking at the different services and staff functions in your organization. So I would say share what you have now and what your planned steps are moving forward, because then you will at least be eligible, and then your description would be scored on the scale of 1 to 5.
Thank you. If our organization is presenting a flute artist from India, can we collaborate with one of the jazz artists listed by South Arts, allowing us to support local jazz artists and present the flute artist? Can we apply for a South Arts grant to financially support this collaborative project? I think this must have been a follow-up
Okay,
to the above, maybe.
I can answer that. I don't know if this is specifically relating to our performing arts training program or perhaps even Jazz Road, but you would not be allowed to submit an application for the performing arts training program or any of our training programs for an artist that resides in India.
For the literary Turing grant, can this apply to seasonal programming or does it need to apply to a new project?
It does not have to be for a new project. It can be for seasonal programming. And I just want to add again that this grant program supports engagements by multiple writers, which is unique from the Performing Arts Touring Program and many of our other touring programs. So if you have a writer series or there is a festival, you can submit a request for more than one writer as long as all of the writers reside in the South and outside of your state, and as long as you don't exceed the maximum request of $2,500.
Thank you, Nikki. If an organization wants to work with a company that has artists that reside both in and out of their home state, is that acceptable?
So musical groups can be a little complex, and we certainly understand that there are many ensembles where the artists and musicians reside in multiple states. We would look for the majority of the ensemble to reside outside of the presenter state, but within our southern region. So again, that's probably a one-on-one conversation that we should have just to make sure that we're on the same page and that the project is eligible.
Great. And just to reiterate a couple questions that have been answered already, there will be a recording of this webinar available for later use. Nikki, I don't have any other questions.
Okay, thank you. So lots of great questions, and I know that questions might come to mind after we end this webinar, and particularly as you begin to prepare your application. So again, feel free to contact me if you have questions. Let me get that back up. If you have questions about the grant program, and you can contact Molly about accessibility or readiness. So with that, I want to say thank you for participating. Again, this recording will be available on our website probably by tomorrow at the latest. Thank you again.